so shocked and like yelling at the operators, like, don't go on the ride, don't go on the ride. And they let another cart go up, like right after us, which I don't get why they like didn't like get them off and then get us off. And like they didn't.
US Army Sergeant James Hackemer lost both legs in the Iraqi War in 2008. He ultimately made a remarkable recovery, but his old war wounds would come back to haunt him in the summer of 2011 on what should have been a safe and fun-filled day at a popular theme park in upstate New York.
At Darien Lake remains closed tonight while the investigation continues. News 4's Anthony Kanji spoke with witnesses who saw the terrifying moments unfold.
Six Flags Darien Lake is a sprawling 1,200-acre or 500-hectare resort and theme park located around 30 miles east of Buffalo, New York. Though it only operates between May and October, it attracts nearly 1.5 million visitors annually. Since opening in 1981, live entertainment, family activities, and exhilarating rides have been the park's biggest drawcard. The towering Superman Ride of Steel hypercoaster wasn't added until 1999, but it's been a park favourite ever since. Standing around 208 feet or 63 metres, and with a total length of nearly 5,500 feet, it has a top speed of 73 miles or 117 kilometers per hour, and at a cost of around $12 million. According to the resort's website, it's still one of the tallest roller coasters in the United States. Although Superman was dropped from the name in 2007, with such impressive specs, nobody really cared. The ride lasts around 2 minutes, and with a capacity of around 1,100 riders per hour, wait times are mostly short, even during the peak season. Roller coasters are not usually dangerous. However, in 1999, one lucky Ride of Steel passenger survived a narrow brush with death. Occurring at the end of the ride on the approach to the station, as the cars braked, a heavy-set 37-year-old rider was ejected from his seat, landing on the concrete below. Falling around 10 feet or 3 meters, he broke his ribs and suffered a number of internal injuries. The inevitable lawsuit found that Darien Lake was liable, and the rider was awarded around $4 million in damages. Displeased with the verdict, the park claimed the man who weighed around 300 pounds or 140 kg was at least partly to blame. Whatever the case, the incident demonstrated the ride's restraints weren't up to the task of securing riders of all sizes and body types. Enlisting in the army before graduating high school, Sergeant James Hackemer served in both Kosovo and Iraq. Already a father of one, he and his wife were expecting a second by March of 2008. However, a roadside IED, or improvised explosive device while serving in Baghdad, changed his life forever. The explosion tore away most of his right leg and all of his left leg and hip. In addition to severe brain damage, he had 2 strokes before slipping into a 2-month coma. Miraculously, he pulled through and was awarded a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. When he returned home, thousands of well-wishers lined the streets to show their support. And after 2 years of grueling rehab, he finally relearned simple tasks like eating and speaking. Although getting a set of prosthetic legs, he didn't always wear them. He wasn't wearing them on Friday, July 8, 2011, when he and his sisters, his 19-year-old nephew, and his 2 children aged 3 and 4 entered Six Flags Darien Lake. Since James was in a wheelchair, staff directed him to the guest information booth to bring him up to speed on restrictions related to his injury. Although offered a safety brochure, he said he already had one and declined to take it. Shortly thereafter, along with his nephew, they approached the park's most iconic attraction, the Ride of Steel. Signs posted at the entrance stated that all guests must be at least 54 inches or 137 centimeters and have both legs to ride the coaster. secured at the hips and shins only, with no shoulder harness, seatbelt, or lap restraint, the above rules were of particular importance. However, James and his nephew had not entered through the regular entrance. Instead, disabled patrons are directed to enter through the exit. While it's unclear if regulations were posted near the exit, without his prosthetic limbs, James having neither 2 legs or meeting the minimum height requirements should have been denied boarding. However, a 21-year-old ride operator let him ride anyway, and although 3 other employees saw his nephew lifting him onto the coaster, none intervened. Ride attendants then checked each rider's safety restraints were in place, after which 2 operators at adjacent control panels set the ride in motion. Shortly into the ride, as the car passed 150 feet, a gust of wind blew James's cap off. A few seconds later, the unthinkable happened when he reached up to grab it. When the ride returned to the loading area just minutes later, passengers alerted attendants that a rider had been tossed from the ride. James's seat was empty, and his nephew appeared to be in shock. Sadly, it wasn't long before James's lifeless body was discovered on the ground below the coaster. His dog tags were scattered just a few feet away, while evidence at the scene indicated he had been killed instantly upon falling from the ride. In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, the roller coaster was closed, but the rest of the park remained open. Nonetheless, a somber mood descended over the crowd as news of the tragedy spread. During an interview at the park medical station, James's nephew described how surreal and horrifying it had been to see his uncle fly out of the seat next to him. He said that James had promised to raise his hands while the coaster was on its steepest and fastest descent. A Department of Labor investigation found that each of the ride attendants on duty that day had passed a written safety exam mandated by the park management. In addition, the training manual clearly stated that all riders were required to have both legs and meet a minimum 54-inch height requirement. However, park employees hadn't received adequate enforcement training, and to enforce the rules in James's case, they would have had to confront an older, disabled veteran. For the young ride operators, investigators acknowledged they might have found this difficult. In the end, the young attendants did what many people might have done in their situation. They chose the path of least resistance and hoped for the best. James's family sued Six Flags Darien Lake for wrongful death, and in 2013, his 2 children became the beneficiaries of an undisclosed 7-figure settlement. If there is a silver lining to this tragedy, it's that in the moments before his untimely death, according to James's sister, he probably felt happier and more alive than he had in years. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. To watch my coverage of the Melbourne Royal Show roller coaster accident, you can click the link on screen. And as always, thanks for watching.